Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it is my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our Vista community and beyond. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Whit Rigali, co-founder of Misadventure Company Vodka. Born and raised in Massachusetts, he moved to California after college in 2006 to work in hospitality, eventually landing in Carlsbad in 2008, where he worked at Hennessy's Tavern and The Compass. So in 2013, Whit started distilling vodka with his now business partner, Sam Chereskin, with the idea that local craft spirits could improve food systems and show that doing good could be viable. So in 2017, Whit and Sam released the vodka brand Misadventure, which is the world's first carbon negative consumer good and the first and only spirit made from excessive baked goods. So we're going to talk all about that. This means that every drink of Misadventure takes a stand against food waste, growing landfills, and the myth that we can't have fun while saving the world. And Misadventure Vodka is a Vista-made company, so I'm really, really excited to have you here. Welcome, Whit. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, so excited. So I was telling you a little bit before we started that I really like vodka. I'm a fan. It's one of my favorite spirits, and it's been very kind to me my entire adult life. So there's so much to talk about, and so let's just jump in.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that we like to talk about on Velocity is not just the thing you make or do, but kind of who you are and why what inspires you, and kind of how you got to be in the spot where you are doing the great work that you do. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know you grew up in Massachusetts and in a home that was built in the late 1700s.
Correct.
That's crazy. What was that like?
Well, I think like anybody in that situation with a kid, you think that's normal. My parents did a bunch of renovations, and we had no floors for like 6 months, and that was normal to us. You know, it was like a constant construction site. At the same time, we had secret passages. We had a pond in the backyard. We had woods. And so
wow,
I grew up basically being able to run outside and into the woods. And then my mom would ring a dinner bell at, dinner time. And after I've been in the woods all day, and it was a great, independent, fun lifestyle.
What a great way to grow up. Just kind of free range.
Yeah.
doing what you want to do. And I think, I think we're probably close in age, and I can relate to that idea of like, mom yelling out the door, come to dinner. And then everybody runs inside. And I grew up in Texas, so not in a home built in 1790s, but can kind of relate to that experience. So you also told me that your family would host these huge community parties. So tell me a little bit about that.
So it started off as in the neighborhood, there's about 12 families that all had kids the same age. And it was a way for everyone to meet each other and get together and kids to play. And that slowly grew throughout the years, where eventually when I was like a freshman in high school, we had 300 to 400 people showing up at our house because my mom was inviting all the people that she met to come over, and we would have kind of like a carnival there where we had mud wrestling and pie throwing contests and egg throwing contests and tugs of war. And we had the pond in the backyard was a great little thing for that. Petting zoos and food and hot air balloon rides. I mean, every year was something different. And the great part about that was being privy to hosting that. At a young age, I got to see how doing nice things for other people, how good that felt. And that has been something that's always stayed with me. I really enjoy providing a unique memory for people and a fun experience, which I think you can see in our tasting room. If you come to our space in Vista, we've really kind of every detail we possibly can. We've really kind of try to pay attention to it. So when someone comes in there, they're just kind of blown away and taken out of just an industrial park, but someplace different.
You're so good. That's exactly what I was going to ask you, is if that experience of hosting people and caring for people and entertaining really drove you to work in hospitality and to host people and connected to your space today. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk more about the tasting room in just a minute, but I wanted to ask you a little bit about Sam.
Sure.
So I read on your website that you two met at a bar. Some really amazing connections have happened at bars.
Absolutely.
All kinds of friendships, romantic relationships, all kinds of things have happened. Some good things can happen at bars. So do you think that either one of you would have done this work without the other?
I think we would have tried, and it obviously would have been very different because this is a company built on like yin and yang. Sam has a background in agricultural economics. He is the fine print guy. He really, really has this insatiable curiosity for everything that we're doing, which is great because we do a lot of things ourselves. One of the themes in our company is we don't have enough money for all these kind of crazy things we're doing, so we have to build it and do it ourselves. So we're constantly working, and so having someone like that as my business partner is phenomenal because if I want to start this with my friends, we all have the same skill set, and so none of us would want to do the things that Sam's great at, and vice versa. Where I have a background in hospitality and talking with people and hosting events. That's the last thing he wants to do. So it's a really, really great partnership that we have going. And so, I don't think we would have gotten as far if we were doing this individually.
So I think a lot of people, we have a lot of businesses in the chamber, and hopefully businesses are listening to this. So I think it's really important to highlight the fact that who you work with and who you choose to be on your team really matters. And when you have that connection with someone and like, yes, we're on the same page, we can work together, we can make this happen. I think that's really wise and a great takeaway from your experience.
It's having a team of people, because that's what we are now, is a team that has strengths and convictions and other weaknesses that we can all fill in, makes the whole company stronger. If we're all good at that one thing, then we're not going to be as dynamic. And in this day and age, I think as small business owners are adapting to COVID, you need to be dynamic and be able to think on your feet, and within a week's notice, be able to almost switch your entire business over.
Sounds like we might talk about that again in a minute as well. So I also want to mention where you talked about just kind of rolling up your sleeves and digging in. I mean, that's what your family did in your life and your upbringing. So that was the example that you had from your parents, and
which was a great example. I mean, we do have this kind of Rigali workaholic kind of thing that I am definitely aware of. But I was just going home recently, like seeing that every one of my family members had like built their own like additions to their houses and are constantly working on the weekends. They have joy in all that stuff. And my father, who's in his mid-70s, is still chopping trees down and clearing brush and loves every minute of that. And so, yes, that's inside of us. And it's definitely inspired me and helped me have the foundation to do these things. That's
great. So besides your family and your parents, do you have any other mentors or people that you've you're doing really innovative things. So when you're writing the script essentially for the work that you're doing for this vodka, for sustainability, who is your mentor? Who do you look to for advice and for guidance?
Well, I guess it really depends on the subject, right? So if we're talking about the craft spirits industry, because we're on the we have our foot in multiple different industries. Then we're looking at our friends at the California Spirits Company, who used to be a San Marcos company. Casey Miles in particular was a gentleman that really took us under his wing and is this amazing given human being that, even though he's so busy, would always make time for anybody, really. And so I cannot thank him enough. And then we had a gentleman, Bill Tiller, who actually passed away recently, unfortunately, and another similar gentleman in the spirits industry who really just did not have to reach out, but was always there for us. And there's only about 13 distilleries in San Diego, but we all know each other and everyone's the same way. It's kind of like the beer industry here in San Diego, where if you got questions or anything, or if you need help or you want to collaborate, everyone works together on that. So it's a really wonderful thing. And then in regards to, the kind of sustainability and in particular a food waste side of things, we are part of the North County Food Policy Council.
Okay.
And we work with nonprofits like Produce Good and the Oside Kitchen Collaborative, who are very inspirational. One, because of how hard they work, but two, their passion and their knowledge, and also the Barry Good Foundation. The other great thing about this area in North County, San Diego, is we have so many people that care, that are innovative, that are trailblazers, and I love that the world is catching up to these people now. And it almost feels like overnight successes for all of them, but they've been doing this for over a decade and fighting this kind of battle and haven't been, it's kind of been an unsung kind of thing until recently, where now people are getting recognition. And, especially during COVID, it's so inspiring to see the Oside Kitchen Collaborative providing meals for so many hungry San Diegans during COVID.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Produce Good, where each of these companies have like tripled their production, giving food to the needy. And it's just, it's wonderful.
Wow. You mentioned about the collaborative spirit among the distilleries and things. I've actually see that in a lot of industries in North County and in San Diego specifically. I feel as though San Diego in North County is just a collaborative environment. I see that industry after industry, and there are some things that are proprietary and people need to kind of hold some things back. But overall, I really feel like, and in Vista specifically, we're all here to support each other and to lift each other up. And that, that's what the chamber's all about, is making those connections. But I really see a lot of collaboration, a lot of good. So I'm glad to hear that that's the case for your industry as well.
Absolutely. It's so funny. Like, I came from a community in Western Mass where everyone cared for each other. There was a neighborly feel. And when I first moved to California, I was afraid that moving to this big city area, we were going to lose that. And moving to North County, San Diego, it blew my mind how friendly everybody was and how much they cared for each other. And then that translated into all the businesses. I don't know if this is a North County thing or what, but I absolutely love it, because it coincides with my ideals of building community and working with our neighbors and friends and caring for one another. And so, North County, San Diego is awesome.
Yeah, great. So how did you end up in Vista? I think you started in San Marcos originally, right?
We started in San Marcos. We looked at all the other places that were going to be not only business friendly, but also alcohol friendly. And, really it was Vista. That was always our number one spot.
Great.
And when the spaces finally opened up for us to move in, Vista, the city was so wonderful and so open and helpful with everything that we've never looked back, and every chance I get, I'm singing the city's praises.
That's great. It's great because, I worked in local government for 20 years, and oftentimes you hear about people want to say, oh, the city slowed this down, or the city this, and I feel like Vista is a great place to do business. The city, the chamber, there's a great partnership. Everybody gets it and wants to move things forward. So I'm glad to hear that was your experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's some city governments where it's a lot of red tape, but I think in Vista, for the most part, like, we all have the same goals, right? We want to make Vista great and have the community grow for everybody in a way. And so I think the city's doing a great job with that.
Cool. All right, let's talk about vodka.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So first of all, the vodkas taste great. I know that you've won a gold medal. So what does that mean? Who gives you a gold medal, and what is it for?
So there are these blind spirits competitions where you, and there's about 20 of them. and you enter your product, and you are judged amongst all the vodkas in the world. And so they sip in your stuff. They don't know what your product is. They don't know the name. They don't know where it comes from. And so we've actually we started submitting our product in 2018. And since then, we've medaled in every single spirits competition we've entered.
Wow. I
think we have over 25 medals. We have 4 gold medals.
Whoa. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. And so
That's a lot.
this is going up against some of the best alcohol brands in the world. And those medals do mean a lot to us because we believe that for sustainable products to succeed in this really competitive world,
right,
they still kind of have to play by the mass-produced products rules.
Okay.
And so you need to have the right price. It needs to be convenient, and then the quality still has to be the same. And so the opposite of that is like when we had that kind of plastic straw craze a couple years ago, and then the only alternative was these paper straws that, you would sip it and then it would disintegrate in your mouth,
yes,
right? It didn't function the same as the mass-produced plastic straws.
Right.
And now we have these great alternatives made from avocado seed, made from agave, all kinds of things that function just the same. And so when we design Misadventure, and when we look to design products in the future, we're keeping that in mind, that this still has to function like a mass-produced product. So those medals show that, yes, this is a sustainable product made from surplus baked goods we get from food banks, but it's still an award-winning vodka on its own right, that no matter where it comes from is still a wonderful product.
I love it. And I think that's a great example about the straw. Thank you for that illustration, because that's exactly it. People want to do good. They want to get the right thing. They want a product that functions, that does what it's supposed to do. And even if you really want to not use a plastic straw, like, you don't want to use a paper one that's going to dissolve in your mouth. You're right. So I appreciate that illustration. That's really great. So also I have to just mention that the bottle is really beautiful.
Thank you.
And so where did the inspiration for the design come from? Do either of you have design background?
I have a fine arts background, which is actually not a design background.
Okay.
And so we actually hired some local friends of ours who had a design company who have since kind of gone their separate ways. But our original idea with that bottle was to actually harkens back to our original idea for how we got started. Sam and I always wanted to have a sustainable company. And we didn't come to vodka right away. We actually wanted to make whiskey and put it in reused wine bottles.
Oh, neat.
But both those ideas took a lot of time and money, which we don't have.
Right.
And so we still kept the wine bottle aesthetic because eventually we might go to the reused wine bottle thing. And so why not?
Sure.
And at the same time, like every vodka on the shelf is clear or bluegrass or frosted, and you're paying as a consumer, you're paying like $4 or $5 extra per bottle just for that piece of packaging. When really what matters it's what's inside of it and who you're sharing it with. And so for us, having this dark bottle, it doesn't bother us. And it stands out on the shelves. It's also convenient for bartenders. They can put a pour spout in there. So we're not afraid of that color. We're proud of it, and we like our design. Yeah.
Cool. Well, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you didn't just immediately have this idea for vodka and then immediately start having success. I appreciate that you share that there were things that maybe didn't go exactly how you expected along the way, because so many people talk about, I was here and then I had success. There's a lot that happens between those points, and I appreciate that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about the whiskey and the wine bottles and maybe why that didn't work? Oh,
sure. I mean, to cover that real quick, our name is Misadventure because of everything you just said. Like, we would not be where we are. So like with the whiskey and the wine bottles, for example, like if we had a lot of money behind us, then we would just be this whiskey company that's bottling stuff in reused wine bottles, which have been great. Like, packaging does need to be solved.
Right.
But we would never have been forced to kind of look for alternative ways of making alcohol. And so that roadblock on our path was a blessing in disguise. And every roadblock in all of our paths in life, I think, are with the right perspective, gives us strength, gives us wisdom, and an opportunity to grow. And so for us, it takes 4 years to make a 4-year-old whiskey, turns out. And so that means you're paying rent on that. And you then have to project out year 5, year 6. So you have to keep adding more stuff and spending more money without seeing any money coming in. So, and alternatively, it takes, about 10 days to make like a vodka or a gin or a rum. And so we started looking at that, thinking like, all right, well, how do we make this sustainable? Because I did not have a good experience with vodka when I was younger. I hated vodka. And partly it's because I didn't know what vodka could be. When you treat it with a craft way or an artisan way, it can be actually really delicate and refined. And we can get to that later.
I can't wait to talk about that.
But so this is 2015. We were, again, looking for a sustainable way to make the spirit. And it just so happened that the Natural Resource Defense Council came out with this study talking about how much food that the globe wastes. And it ends up being 40% of all food.
It's crazy to think about.
Gets thrown away. And the thing about that is, besides making kind of like your grandparents disappointed because you're not part of the Clean Plate Club, there's this 2 ways the environment really kind of gets nailed for that. The first and the obvious one is all this stuff goes to a landfill, and when food goes to a landfill, it turns into methane, which is a greenhouse gas. It's about 25 times more damaging to the atmosphere than CO2. But the unforeseen thing that happens, which is all the supply chain stuff that none of us really see, right? And so when you waste food, that means you're also wasting all of the land that was devoted to those crops, all of the nutrients that went into that, all of the water. So 20% of our drinking water goes into the food that we don't even eat. And so here we are in California, where one, we're in this massive drought, but 2, we actually grow a lot of the food for the United States.
Right. California is the biggest agricultural producer for the country.
Exactly.
Right.
And so 1/5 of our water is being wasted because of food waste. And it's not one person's problem, one company's problem. It happens throughout the entire supply chain. But either way, if food doesn't get eaten and gets thrown away, all of the inputs that go into it also get wasted. And so when we found out about this, in particular, Sam found out about this with his agricultural economics background, who understood food systems and food chains, there was this light bulb moment where here we are having this really weird knowledge about distilling and fermenting and things like that, but also having the knowledge about the food system. And what we, in particular, Sam, could do is, instead of looking at this as just being like food being wasted, we look at it as starches and sugars being wasted.
Right.
The building blocks to making alcohol. And when you kind of look at that from a different angle, that's that light bulb moment where it's like, wait a second, if this is starches and sugars and all alcohol is made from starches and sugars, can we take this stuff and turn it into alcohol? And so that just kind of led this domino kind of thing where we started going to grocery stores and going to restaurants and asking what they did with their food waste. And then that led us to the nonprofits, which led us to the North County Food Policy Council, which then led us to meeting with the food banks and stuff like that, where now we get all of our baked goods. And the great thing about the baked goods, really quickly, is that for the most part, they're not giving the baked goods to the needy because there's no nutritional value in them.
Right, the nutrients aren't there.
But they have starches and sugars.
Right.
And so the food banks love that they can give this stuff to us, because otherwise they're going to throw it away. You have to pay waste haulers to throw it away. So
right.
it ends up working out where by us taking this stuff, it actually saves them money and helps the environment out. And now people can drink a little bit of booze and help the environment.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate what you said about the supply chain and just that when you throw away food, that you're also throwing away all the resources that it took to make that food. I really appreciate that. I hadn't really thought of it in that way before. So I appreciate that. So I wanted to ask you about your partnership with the food banks, particularly the North County Food Bank, which is here in Vista. They're one of your neighbors, sort of, right? So that's convenient. Yep. Are they the main source where you get your baked goods?
Yeah, right now they're the main and only source. Unfortunately for the world, there's a whole lot of this.
Yeah.
And we are still a small craft distillery, so we can only take so much. Now, we're trying to change that and increase our intake. But right now what's great is that because they're kind of an institutional aggregator, we can just go to one source and pick it up. Originally, we were like, oh, do we have to buy some trucks and go to businesses?
Right.
And that would have been too cost prohibitive. So right now, having that one space is perfect for us. Now, again, as we grow, we'll be able to start talking to local businesses and seeing if we could help them out and start taking some of their food waste as well. Because again, there's so much of it.
It's a lot. There's a lot. So I want to mention that there is a video on YouTube from the Beer, Wine, and Spirits channel. And I think it's like a 15-minute video. And I'll put it in the show notes. But it's really important because I love that the gentleman who interviewed you actually goes to the food bank and kind of walks through the whole process. And so I think that's important. And I'll put that in the notes for people to check out. So one of the things on your website I saw is that you're upcycle certified. What does that mean?
So recently there has been a kind of a collaboration between a bunch of sustainable businesses that focus on upcycling. And we all wanted to make a certificate to let consumers know that these products are environmentally friendly in a way. So kind of like the organic certification, it's a way for consumers to kind of lock into something and understand that, like, all right, this is something that I understand and it helps me make my decisions quicker. Because, you look at back of a bottle of something and like, there's like, know this, know that. And then some things you never heard of before.
Right.
And buying things can be, a lot of work. And so,
right. Being an informed consumer
is
a task.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, it seems like we have less and less time for anything nowadays. And so if we can make it easier for consumers to become informed and make those decisions, these upcycled certifications are one of those.
Great. So what does it mean to you to be the first and only company in doing this exact work in this space? What does it mean to you to be first and to be the only? Is that a big deal to you?
I think at first it was, but when you're the first at something, that also means you're the first at figuring out all these problems that go into it. And, as we've been talking earlier, explaining that food waste is a problem and that it is a major contributor to climate change, that's a long conversation to have. And as we just touched on, when people are buying things, they don't necessarily want to be learning things at the same time too. It's too busy. And so being the first is great, but also there is so much that's not so great about it. So there are other companies that are coming around that are in our industry tackling food waste. And the nice thing is they're sharing that burden. Yeah. And so the more companies that are upcycling things, that are talking about food waste, that are making alcohol from different products, like at first I'm like, oh, these guys are copying us. But for me, I'm looking at this as like, now we're actually promoting, like educating consumers on this problem. And I don't have to spend an hour or a half hour on a tour telling people why they should care about this. They already know now. And that's a really great thing to be able to kind of make that transition quick, you know?
To share that burden of the education and all of that with others. Kind of goes back to the conversation about collaboration that we're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're first and you want to be a collaborator, that means you also have to collaborate. If you want people to collaborate with you, you have to be a collaborator too.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So
Absolutely.
I get the weight and the burden of being first, but also the badge of honor, but then also, wanting to share some of the growing pains with others too.
Yeah. I think really what it comes down to is for us is that we don't have time to rest on our laurels. There's still so much that we have to do and we want to do, that being the first is great. But there's a lot more we want to do right now.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that we're too prideful of necessarily.
Sure. So you have basically the one product, the vodka. Do you have any plans for flavors or anything you can share?
Yeah. So hopefully for the holidays, we're going to start releasing some specialty releases where we're working with the nonprofits community, where we're taking either excess products that can't be sold from the farmers or whoever, and we're going to make these specialty liqueurs or amaros. I think the first one I'm planning on doing is a limoncello with oat milk, so a creamy limoncello, and we're taking.
That sounds great.
we're going to be taking lemons that haven't really had the ability to be sold. So around here in San Diego, we have a lot of ornamental farms,
right?
And so these lemons grow in abundance and just drop on the ground. And so this company, Produce Good, will grab a lot of this fruit and citrus and give it to the needy. But they have so much that they can't do things with it. So we'll take some of that and make a product where we can donate back to them and help the environment out, make something new and cool. So as we do these releases, that would be the plan: is finding some way of collaborating and helping the environment out, spreading the word about food waste and these nonprofits, and making some great products. And so we have that. We're going to be doing hopefully some canned cocktails from our distillery to go.
Great.
I would love to do a gin. There's so many things we love to do, but we got to get there first because there's so much going on, especially in our tasting room and things like that.
I'm glad you mentioned the tasting room because I want to talk about it. First of all, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. The drinks you offer there are fun. They're tasty, unique. It's a whole vibe. It's a whole vibe there. So tell me about the inspiration for the tasting room and the space.
And so part of it, when it comes to the quality of the drinks, I bartended for a decade here in San Diego and made a lot of great connections with other bartenders and the craft cocktail scene. I love all that, using fresh ingredients, and part of that was our inspiration for coming into the spirits industry in general, where using local everything is what these bartenders want. And so there wasn't a lot of local spirits, but either way, we found that being where we are in Vista, in that business park area, we're surrounded by breweries. There's 20,000 people that work in that area.
Right.
And then you have Bressy Ranch and Shadow Ridge around that.
Right.
People, are very used to having a beer after work. And if they're going to go out at night, they were going to Carlsbad or downtown San Diego or Encinitas, but they really weren't staying there. And so we wanted to create a space that was kind of based off of English pubs in a way, where it's a community gathering place or a home away from home. So we wanted something from everybody there, where it's comfortable inside, has the speakeasy vibe, but at the same time, you had really, really high quality drinks and attention to detail. And in 2020, we actually got runner-up for best cocktails in San Diego.
Yum.
Which that wasn't our mission, but I'm very happy we got that. And so, we wanted something where you don't have to go to Carlsbad. You can come to our place and have a wonderful experience, and then, ride a bike home.
I love it. So what's next for your location? I know you have some special events happening. Tell me a little bit about that.
So today is our soft opening for having some food at our location.
Oh, great.
And so we're going to have these kind of Japanese style kind of convenience food. So it's going to be light and easy, but still high quality. We're working with this company called Matsu, based out of Oceanside.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a collaboration between all of us with that. But that is the big thing that's happening now. We have a burlesque style show coming up next Wednesday where we're selling tickets, where there's a 3-course meal, the show, and we're gonna do cocktail pairings with that. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. We're always trying to do fun events. And then, we're going to be doing the specialty releases, eventually the canned cocktails. So a lot of fun.
That's cool. And you're open Wednesday through Saturday in the evenings.
Wednesday through Saturday. Eventually we're going to have brunch.
Okay.
And so in the next, hopefully 2 weeks, we're going to have brunch there. So we'll have Bloody Marys as well. We do have TVs where we'll be doing NFL. So if people want to hang out and watch some football,
okay,
bring some bloodies.
Sounds good. I'm in. Okay, so tell us where we can buy your vodka if we want to have it at home.
So the best thing, if you live in the area, is come say hi to us and get a bottle there.
Okay.
You could also go online. Well, there is Fiesta Liquor in Carlsbad. There is Holiday Wine Cellar in Escondido.
Okay.
And then the Carter Seaside Market all carries our stuff, as well as a lot of local bars and restaurants.
Okay.
We've had to, because of COVID, refocus our efforts. We were trying to do, sell out to restaurants and bars and grocery stores, and then also, improve our tasting room. And we're spreading ourselves too thin, especially in an era where it's really hard to find people.
Right.
So we decided to really focus on what we do best and what we really enjoy doing at the time being, and really make that tasting room a wonderful experience.
Cool. I think, though, people can buy, if they don't live in the area, they can buy online and have it shipped.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good to know. Okay. So what do you like most about your work?
I really like the idea. It's a love-hate thing about the challenges every day. Every day it's a new thing. And because we are the first to do a lot of the things that we're doing, they're not challenges that you can go online and be like, oh, how do you do this, this, and this? Right. You really got to use your creative muscles. And, I have a background in fine arts. And that is really kind of what they teach you, is how to constructively think and look at the tools around you to achieve a goal that's not as straightforward. And so I enjoy that, because that you're using creativity and your imagination constantly. And I don't think there's many other jobs that really allow you to do something like that.
That's great. I think I really like your approach to that, and where you talked about, roadblocks and having the right perspective. It sounds like that's a really similar thing that you love about your work, is that there are challenges and things that you can solve. Some other people might look at those challenges and say, I'm out. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. I can't do it. But I think that's great that, as an entrepreneur, you have to have that problem solving spirit, and you have to look at that as something exciting and something that you want to do, rather than, oh, what problem today? Oh no,
You're exactly right. And don't get me wrong, like
it can weigh on you, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, it takes a while to kind of like mentally train yourself to kind of like look at these things differently. But, your first knee-jerk reactions to something breaking or a rule changing or whatever is like a gut punch, right? But the time that it takes for you to kind of get off the floor and pick yourself up when you've done this multiple times is much quicker, that rebound. And so, like the pandemic, for example, when that hit, all in one day, when everything shut down, our tasting room shut down.
Yep.
Bars and restaurants shut down.
Yep.
All of our sales just ceased to exist, and there was no timeline on where this is going to go. And so for 24 hours, we're like, all right, well, we're going to close our business. That's it.
Yeah.
And then
a lot of people felt that way. I got a lot of phone calls in those first few hours of people like, what now? And I'm like, I'm figuring it out too. Yeah. I'll let you know. So what did you do?
And so we ran into this article about someone in like the Northwest who was giving like excess parts of his distilled product and he's turning into hand sanitizer. And so we were like, well, let's just put some numbers together and see what we can do with this. And as we started doing that, we started getting emails about, hey, can you guys do this stuff? I'm like, oh, there might be something here. And so we decided to take what little funds we had, and within 10 days, we had bought the spray bottles and everything that we needed to make the hand sanitizers. We researched how to do it, looked at the FDA guidelines for that, and then had a website up. And we were the first distillery in Southern California to not only offer hand sanitizer to the public, but have something we can go online and buy it. And that saved our company.
Amazing.
It allowed us to be where we are today. And that was because instead of like being woe is me, which again, we were like that for the first 24 hours, we took stock of what we had and what we could do, and kept fighting.
That's amazing. But people should not drink hand sanitizer.
They should not drink hand sanitizer.
Don't drink hand sanitizer, please.
No, don't do that. We got vodka for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So your operations focused solely on hand sanitizer for pretty much most of 2020, right?
Correct.
And then back to vodka in 21.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still making hand sanitizer?
We still have it. We're not necessarily making it anymore. The hand sanitizer market kind of dropped off a cliff.
Sure.
So we have some if people need it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm glad to hear you're back to vodka. So I want to know, though, is there anything that you haven't shared that you think as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, something hard that somebody else might hear and be inspired by, something hard that you've had to do or that's come across that you haven't shared already?
I mean, it just still goes down to kind of embracing all those kind of hardships, because those are the learning lessons. And I really can't give one thing in particular, like the pandemic is the obvious one.
Yeah.
And then the one I mentioned in beginning of the thing was definitely one too. But I think what that's taught us is that, you go into business as an entrepreneur thinking like, this is my idea, this is my one thing. And I think with the right mindset, you end up coming out with the product that you're meant to build and the company that you were meant to have, but you had to kind of, throw something against the wall multiple times to let it stick. And that's a hard process. And you have to be able to kind of like swallow your ego a little bit to be able to let some things go.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Because when you have, like you said in the beginning, you wanted to make whiskey, right? And then you end up doing vodka and you're doing great. So you have to be able to kind of listen to what's happening, look at the numbers, listen to the universe even.
Exactly.
And just, do you feel like you listen to your gut? Does your gut talk? Do you listen to, are you a gut person or a head person or a heart person?
I think all the above.
Yeah.
I think the gut gets you to certain places, and then the universe will come out and be like, oh, there's this going on, that going on. And that kind of like reinforces it. And yeah, all of a sudden you just find the things that like, oh, this is leading me down this path. And then, yeah, when people start liking it, then now you're like, all right, this
cool.
This works.
All right.
Yeah. The key is to keep it light though, right? You don't want to invest too many resources, because if it doesn't work, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to talk to you. I'm so glad you're here today. I have a couple of last questions, kind of these like quickie questions.
Sure.
So I'm curious if you have a book that you think everyone should read, or a book that was really important to you.
I mean, we're still talking about these obstacle things. And so like the obvious book that I really drew inspiration from was The Obstacle is the Way. And it really talks about, historically how people have had these major tragedies in their lives, but those tragedies or things going wrong have shaped them into who they are. And it's more of like a stoic look on things, which is also, I think, a really important philosophy that all of us nowadays should at least take a look at and understand, because they could help us out with a lot of these daily problems that we're all dealing with.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I haven't read that one. I'll have to add it to my list. Okay, tell me a song that you always have to turn up. You got to sing along. Something you enjoy.
Just for no reason other than it's just a fun song is that Rubber Band Man song. I forget who sings it.
Rubber Band Man.
Rubber Band Man.
Okay. When did it come out?
Oh, it's like a 70s song.
Okay,
but so
okay.
if you
I have to look that
you know,
one
like
up.
the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack.
Yes.
It's one of like the main songs on that.
Okay.
And it's just like the beat, the chorus, everything, just like you can't help but just kind of bob your head to it. And yeah, it puts a smile on my face.
Great. Everybody needs to smile. That's great. Okay. What's something that inspires you?
You know, I think it's my mom and family that really kind of I always look back to. I was just back east, and you know, the entire family came out to get together, and we haven't done that in so long, and it's so inspiring to see that love and that effort and that caring, that I take that and I want to spread that to the rest of the world, because if all of us deserve that, and the world can be a much better place. We're all social creatures, and if I can spread a little bit of that to everybody else, then you know, I'm doing right by my family.
I really want to hang out with your family. They sound really fun.
They're awesome.
They sound really fun. Okay, tell me a Vista business that you think deserves a shout out.
Since we're doing, since I'm an alcohol company, I really love how Vista's embraced all the other alcohol companies. Like we have, especially in the Sycamore Business Park area, there's so many fun, cool businesses out there.
Yeah.
There's 2 other distilleries. You have Henneberry Whiskey, which we're like a sister company with them. We love those guys.
They're great.
And then you have 117 West,
Yep.
and they're making rum, and 2 teachers are running that. They're awesome. And so those are the 2 spirits companies that I say go visit them, and you're going to learn so much from those guys, and they have great products. And then, you know, there's just great breweries. And so you have obviously Booze Brothers, which is, everyone knows them. But if you're actually at Henneberry, Battle Mage is this really, really high quality brewery that has this board game, like they lean into the board game thing hard, and it's awesome and fun. And they're right there next to Henneberry, so you can kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone. And I could go on and on and on, but those are 3 right there that I love.
Great. We have so many amazing companies in Vista, and everybody works together and supports each other. That's so great. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I can't wait. Hope next time I come to the tasting room, I'll look for you and see if you're there. And I'm just really appreciate you joining me today for Velocity, and it's great to chat with you. I'll see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers impacting Vista, California. To hear the latest from Velocity, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization which serves as a catalyst to business growth. Visit us online at vistachamber.org.
This was a production of A Different Day Radio.